it was always at the back of my mind that I wanted to seek and to search. Where am I going from here? Death is something which is part of life. It is a continuation of life, only in another form. We should not grieve over a person who has passed out of this life, or because it is selfish of us to want to attach ourselves to the body of a person, as it were. Actually, it's selfishness we're grieving about, the body. We want them to be with us, you see. And yet, that is not what we really love. What we really love, or should love, is the soul and the peace that they enjoy. We should not fear death. This transition between life and death is just another state of life, of consciousness. The person passes out into another phase, and he leaves the body behind, the body of suffering, and he enjoys for a time a life of bliss. There is a period when he again has to come into the life of illusion and take another body in incarnation. And we should look upon this life as a life not that is real, but a life of illusion. That Baba says God alone is real. So until the whole of the person's impressions of his previous life are worked out or wiped out by the grace of the Master, he has to come and take another incarnation. It would not do for us to know the past, because of the things done and left undone, and God mercifully cuts our consciousness between knowing our past incarnations. But He knows them. Meher Baba knows a person's incarnations right from the beginning of time. One can incarnate into parents that are suitable for the incarnation of the soul, for it to carry out the impressions that it has to go through and carry out. It gets, what I would say to every person, as I understand the teachings of Meher Baba, every human being gets the best possible parents under the law. It helps to pray for a person who has entered into the transitional state from this life into the next. But after the first 3 days, it's not effective. The soul leaves the body after either the first or the second or the third, but rarely after the third is the soul attached to the body. So that God never leaves us, He is always present, ever present with us. My eyes dropped on this tombstone, the first one that I saw, and the words on it are very appropriate. It says, in loving memory of Tom Richardson, Surrey and England cricketer. He bowled his best, but was himself bowled by the best. It's something we all have to meet at some time. Get bowled out. Baba was a very good cricketer. Well, all round. I wasn't acquainted, neither did I like the game at all. And they made me the captain. This was when I was at school, just left school. And I was about 17. And the only good thing I did in cricket, there was a swift ball going over my head, and I put my hand up and caught it. And they said that was the best catch they'd ever seen. It was a fluke too. If we could become childlike in our nature, in every detail, every moment, we would have that humility and that childlike innocence. bird in a cage has never known what freedom is. The human being cannot understand the spiritual freedom that Baba gives. His soul is encaged within his physical body. Freedom is not understood in the sense of many kinds of freedom. There is political freedom, religious freedom, national freedom and racial freedom, and many other kinds of freedom, which are all limited in their scope. But the greatest freedom of all is the freedom of the soul, which includes all the other freedoms. The reason people do not seek consciously the freedom of the soul is because they're not aware of it, or that it exists. And that impels them to seek freedom in other directions. If I want a better world, I must become a better man. Then the world, for me, becomes better. Man dreams of material perfection. And the more he thinks about material perfection, the less he thinks about God, until he thinks God does not exist at all. Baba is the pivot of the universe. The universe depends upon that which comes forth from the God-man. Baba is the God Almighty on earth in our lifetime. Every movement of his finger, of his hands, meant something. I happened to be there once, with him alone, and I had no need to ask questions. or anything. It was sufficient to be in that quietness, knowing who he is. The love of a devotee is a gift from Baba to the devotee. Humility or humbleness is also a gift from the Master. It is not something that one can use at any time and bring into play. It is a virtue, a spiritual virtue which saints possess. Baba has explained to us about it. He's given us an instance of dust, how it can be trampled on, how it responds to any treatment that is given to it. And he says we have to be like dust. That is, to be humble. Where the God-man walks, every atom of the earth there is blessed. When one loves the Master, all things become new to him. Even his environment can change, which hitherto had been best for the ego to express itself in through the work that the devotee was doing, or through a man's profession, or whatever it may be. Baba helps one to overcome the ego so that they find a more congenial attitude towards life and towards their fellow men.
When they begin the beginning, it brings back a sound of music so tender. It brings back a night of tropical splendor. It brings back a memory evergreen. I'm with you once more under the stars. And down by the shore an orchestra's playing, and even the palms seem to be swaying when they begin the beginning. To live it again.
Now, Baba wanted the Begin record by Leslie Hutchinson. So I thought, well, Baba wants this record, then I feel I've got to look, must find it.
And promising never, never to part. What moments divine, what rapture serene. Till clouds came along to disperse the joys that we've tasted. And now when I hear people curse the charms...
The words were already there. And Baba only needs the instrument. And Cole Porter was the one.
Oh yes, let them begin the begin, make them play, till the stars that were there before return above. Whisper to me once more, darling, I love you. Then we suddenly know what heaven we're in when we begin the begin. When we begin the begin.
Baba's methods cannot be understood because no amount of intellectual explanation can explain them. They are infinite. And they are always for the good of humanity and always for the good of the individual. Meher Baba says, everyone is destined, sooner or later. So we should have patience and try to overcome our fate in this lifetime and look towards the goal. But let us remember that it is all illusion. It is only love that is real, and that God is love.
Oh yes, let them begin the begin, make them play, till the stars that were there before return above. Whisper to me once more, darling, I love you. Then we suddenly know what heaven we're in when we begin the begin. When we begin the begin.